So thank you very much. Now, Elisabeth, I have already introduced in the beginning from PAFO. She's also the president of the Eastern African Farmers Federation, and she always forgets to say that just recently, 2 months or perhaps a bit less, the World Farmers Organization have nominated her, awarded her as one of the exemplary women leaders in farmers' organizations contributing to sustainable development. So, congratulations and thank you for coming from the East African region. I was telling you, you have the PowerPoint? Yes, thank you. I know her from her private sector, I told you, she produced excellent banana wine. I don't know if you still do it, but it's how I met her.
Yeah, thank you very much, Isolina, for the wonderful introduction. On my behalf and on behalf of the Pan-African Farmers Organization, I would like to join my voice to colleagues to thank the organizers of the Brussels briefings for inviting the farmers to be part of this 60th Brussels briefing. And as PAFO, we've always been privileged to be part and parcel of the briefings, and we've actually participated in 54 out of the 60 briefings that have been held. So you can see that we are ranked among the organizations that have heavily participated in these briefings. And for us, it's been a platform where we showcase what we are doing in Africa with the farmers and farmers organizations, but also learning from the wide experiences that are within this room, and also building our partnership base. We've generated so many partnerships out of these forums. EU, ACP has been supporting continental programs, first with SFOWAP and the recently launched program for farmers organizations for Africa and Caribbean. And just yesterday, as mentioned by Isolina, we, as PAFO, we signed an MOU with Kore ACP to support our next five-year strategy. And I believe the focus will again be on improving the food systems and enabling us to have the food system that we want as farmers organizations. So coming from a constituency that is again heavily affected by the current nature of the food systems that we have, but also from a constituency that can contribute greatly to the future of the food system that we want. It's been difficult for me to come up with a presentation for this last Brussels briefing, but again, from what I will present, you will realize that it's more of an analysis of what is on ground and how best we can improve it to have a better food system that we want as farmers organization. So I will not go into details of that, but we are a continental body that brings together all the regional farmers organizations in Africa. We have a membership in the entire of Africa from the 5 regional farmers organizations with 80 national farmers organizations and representing over 80 million smallholder farmers from 49 countries. That is our vision and our mission, of course, representing the interests of African farmers and promoting development of African agriculture. So looking at the food system and from the farmer's perspective, there's a lot that has been written in terms of defining what a food system is. But looking at what has been documented, and as farmers, what we feel is closer to us, is according to the definition by the University of Oxford, and defining the food system as a complex web of activities involving the production, processing, transport, and consumption. And basically, it means the farm-to-fork value chain approach. It looks at issues concerning the food system that include governance, economics of food production, its sustainability, the degree to which we waste food, how food production affects the natural environment, but also the impact of food on individual and population health. And what is this global food system then? It can be described in the most basic terms as the production, processing, and distribution of food throughout the world, and is meant to feed the world, to reduce hunger and malnutrition through trade by creating higher levels of food availability, accessibility, utilization, and stability. So what's wrong? What is not right with our current African food system? I looked at the 5 major issues that are really hindering the African food system. And the most critical one is the climate change. And you will all realize that the recent events that are happening in climate change by far pose the greatest risk to the African food system. We have ravaging droughts in the southern part of Africa. The major insect infestation, as already mentioned by the previous speakers, by Leonard Mizi, in the Horn of Africa, but also in the Eastern Africa. It has actually spilled out of control in Kenya, and we've seen farmers asking their government to declare the phenomenon as a national disaster since it has been unable to control its spread. This incident is after an outbreak of course, the fall armyworm and the floods in the southern part of the continent. So there is really need for urgency in making available climate mitigation, adaptation, and resilience funds and support for the continent to restore what looks like a major food crisis in the future for Africa. The second critical point is on the lack of sufficient support to producers, we the farmers who produce the food. And the African farmer practices an array of production systems. We range from traditional to conventional and the modern practices. We have family farmers from the modest to the largest, and we have those in livestock and fisheries who are often marginalized. With the continent importing over 40 billion US dollar worth of food per annum, it means the African farmer cannot currently feed her continent. But we have the potential to do so if significantly supported through integration into existing food production systems, having the requisite capacity to form appropriate farmers' organizations, having the right partnerships and support by our governments, but it's also imperative that we adequately support the African farmers to be able to feed the future generations. The other critical issue, again, is on agriculture policies. It is a well-known fact that Africa is rich in policies. We have the CADIP, we have the national agriculture policies, we have regional and international trade policies, we have the regional integration, we have policies on climate change, to mention but a few. But the problem is that most of these policies are most times either not well researched, there is inadequacy in terms of consultations, awareness is not well done, and ownership is diverse. The inconsistencies in policies result in poor resourcing and enforcement, and we know that, for example, most international trade agreements are not in favor of African, and our experts lack the capacity to argue otherwise. We have also politicized food in the continent, and this makes it one of the major policies as being ineffective, hence the reason we suffer from the food dumping, from land grab, from unfair competition with commodities that are produced elsewhere. Again, the policies cannot stand alone. They always move along with agriculture investments. It is said that the right policies are followed, again, like I've already mentioned, with the right investments. The policies supporting agroecological farming, the family farming or conventional farming, have very little to show in terms of investments, especially for the smallholder producers. There are so many opportunities, say in the post-harvest. In some countries, we are experiencing more than 40% in terms of post-harvest losses. The infrastructure, the distribution, the value addition, financial inclusion, climate-smart agriculture, among others. Investment instruments developed for poor populations have to be created, and there is always little impact because most of these are not properly designed, and the patience of the investments is also, again, not long enough. The last one is on data and information, bearing in mind that the current challenges facing our agriculture state of play. There is need to create an information highway that is fed by the current data analysis Africa in general lacks this capacity, as an effort around it is very fragmented. We will need to learn how to converge data and information to make sense, and most importantly, to use this to inform our planning. So what are we doing as farmers' organizations? There is evidence of supporting farmers' organizations in managing the various food systems. Examples are in West Africa, in Senegal and Mali. We have strong farmers' associations that are supporting family farming, which we recognize as one of the processes to deliver to Agenda 2030 through the recently declared United Nations Decade of Family Farming. We have cooperatives in Uganda, in Rwanda, which are also again strong in aggregation and variation. We also have a virtual, for example, cooperatives through embracing the technologies, the e-granary in Eastern Africa. In North Africa, in Sudan, and Morocco, to be particular, we have cooperatives and farmers associations that are good in producing from arid conditions. But also in the Southern Africa, we have farmers associations and cooperatives that are good in precision farming. So our experience on the state of play is that in countries where we have weak farmers organizations, the import bills are very high. There is relative political instability, the ecosystems have been degenerated, and the national debts are very high. And again, as I come to the end of my conclusion, what is the food system that farmers want? As farmers, we want to see a food system that restores the dignity of the African farmer. We would like to see a system or systems that recognize the diversity of production systems from resilient to sustainable. A system that does not marginalize the livestock or fish producers. We want to see a system that is seen to put the farmer at the center of focus as the investment. Because the investment is needed to feed the world and reduce hunger and malnutrition, meaning the interventions will be done involving the farmer at all times. There is a lot of capacity to be harnessed in us as farmers' organizations to make food available, to make it accessible, to make it utilized, and stably produced. The farmers of Africa have struggled to put together national, regional, and a Pan-Africa farmers organization to achieve this fate. We plead with you and everyone out there, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Yes, lastly, I will have a statement from PAFO as regard to the, this last Brussels briefing. I think I will be given an opportunity. Can I present it? Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So finally, I would like to present the PAFO tribute to CTA. And it reads, out of the 60 Brussels briefings, Africa was present in 54 through our farmer organization leaders and entrepreneurs. The first briefing dedicated to African agriculture was held on the 17th of October 2007 on advancing African agriculture. 5 continental briefings were organized in Africa. In September 2010 in Cameroon on access to land, in Burkina Faso on climate change, 2014 in Kenya on promoting inclusive financing models for farmers in Africa, November 2015 in South Africa on agribusiness and public-private partnerships, and October 2016 in Ghana on youth and agribusinesses. CTA has strengthened our communication work, training on ICT for ag and other web tools. It has supported consultations on climate change, the use of drones, partnerships like MUI's project in Uganda, the e-extension, that is the e-granary project in Kenya, facilitating experience capitalization workshops involving exchanges, learnings, write shops, and workshops to the Pacific, India, and other countries. Publications through the Spore magazine was an opportunity to publicize material and information we had developed with CTA support. There are many startups that are supported by CTA in ACP countries. We can't forget the strictness in reporting, which we all used as a benchmark for reporting to other partners. And finally, as PAFO, we are able to assess the positive results of the partnership including the Brussels briefing on farmers and farmers' organizations in Africa. The knowledge management exchanges, which need to be continuously supported. Having partnered with CTA in all these activities, we have acquired enough skills. It's our humble prayer that EU and ACP, through joint partnership, grant us such an opportunity to manage these activities on behalf of farmers globally, but also leverage on the already existing partnerships like the Farmers Organization for ACP, for Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific, and the yesterday signed MOU with Core ACP. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and I do believe that, yes, you have many of the capacities to do the work we were doing, even, I think, at least as far as I'm concerned with my work, better than I did myself. And you are the first, interested. I'm very glad that also the FO for ACP program you have financed by the European Commission with support also from IFAD, AgriCode, and other partners who are in the room are really centered on the farmers' organization. That is absolutely excellent. We wanted to change a bit the format, this morning and dedicate the second panel only for questions, but I think you cannot do that on the on the number 60 because we have a bit, but we still have 2 hours, which I think we have time if we can break and have the 2 other presentations.